Greetings, fellow romantics, and welcome to another episode of Romcoms Revisited. So the trailer for the latest installment in the Bridget Jones cinematic universe dropped last week, and what can I say other than, what was that? I have so many questions and no answer could change my befuddlement. What did they do to my man Colin Firth?
Look how they massacred my boy.
You're telling me he survived a bullet to the head in the Kingsman movies, but he died of old age in this one?
No ma'am. No ma'am.
What kind of rubbish is that, bruv? And so, to clear my head, I thought why not go back to the past where everything was fine and rewatch the first movie. Now without further ado, let's get bloody right into it. Oh, doing a British accent is so fun. The movie begins with Bridget going back home for New Year's, and right off the bat, we're smacked with a couple of offensive jokes.
His wife was Japanese. Very cruel race. Never get a boyfriend if you look like you've wandered out of Auschwitz.
Well, when you conquer half of the world, you get to tell such jokes and claim it as dark humor, am I right? Bridget is painfully single, so her mother tries to set her up with Mark Darcy. Mark Darcy.
Coincidence? I think not!
And yeah, I just found out this movie was inspired by Pride and Prejudice. Sue me. Anyway, they get to talking and the vibes are instantly off. She gets the ick from his sweater, he gets the ick from her whole being, and so when his mother asks how it went, he begins rattling on insults in true Mr. Darcy fashion. And it's in that moment Bridget realizes she needs to get the hell out of singlehood. So she starts a diary with all her resolutions. Her first being weight loss, which she doesn't need to, at all. She's nowhere near being fat, but she keeps calling herself that. Society's so weird. And her second resolution is to find a good guy who's basically the opposite of her dreamy boss Daniel, who she can't stop fantasizing about. I can't blame her though, it's Hugh Grant. But her resolutions don't go as planned because he starts flirting with her hard via some really inappropriate emails. But she's having fun with it, so no need to call HR. He asks her out, but she plays hard to get, telling him to ask her again another time. Her friends give her tips on how to seduce him, and bless her heart, she tries to follow them through this book event, but she only ends up embarrassing herself. Not only in front of strangers, but also in front of Mark, who also happens to be there. I forgot how so much of the comedy in this movie relies on Bridget embarrassing herself. I'm gonna need a strong cup of coffee to sit through this one. Mark feels bad and attempts to go comfort Bridget, but Daniel beats him to it. He takes her out to dinner and reveals that Mark was an old friend of his, but they don't get along anymore because Mark stole his fiancée. How scandalous. Him and Bridget end up doing the what shall not be named at night, and they continue seeing each other from that day on. Things get to the next level when they leave town for a family party, but misfortune seems to follow Bridget everywhere she goes, because guess who also happens to be at the hotel? Yep, Mike Darcy. The two have another round of fun that night, but Daniel has to leave the next morning for quote-unquote important business. He drops her off at the party, which is supposed to be a costume party, so she goes dressed as a bunny girl, but finds herself the only one in a costume. She gets asked about Daniel, who's currently absent, and Mark comments that he's not good for Bridget. She retorts that he's not one to talk, considering his past behavior, and he seems genuinely confused by her remark. She goes back to Daniel's place to lift her mood up, but that does the opposite, because, as it turns out, to no one's shock but Bridget, honestly, he was cheating with this woman named Laura. And get this wanker is engaged to Laura.
You dumb fucking bitch! I'm gonna fuck you! Fucking run away from me, you stupid bitch! You guys, come on!
Man ain't shit. Thankfully, Bridget does the sensible thing and starts working on herself. She starts working out, decides to quit drinking and smoking, and lands herself a new job by being brutally honest.
Why do you want to work in television?
I've got to leave my current job because I've shagged my boss.
Fair enough. Start on Monday. We'll see how we go.
Oof, I wish it was that easy. Daniel tries to convince her to stay in the company, but she hands it to him right in front of everyone.
But if staying here means working within 10 yards of you, frankly, I'd rather have a job wiping Saddam Hussein's ass.
That's my girl. She starts her new job with a bang, and by that I mean she flashes the camera with her bum and becomes what we call in this modern age a meme.
Miss, if you got a bumper, then shake it.
She gets invited to a friend's dinner that's filled with nosy couples who can't stop bombarding her with inappropriate questions.
You really ought to hurry up and get sprogged up, old girl. Times are running out.
Mind your fucking business, you socky lump of shite. Mark also happens to be there because of course he is. She gets fed up, so she puts on her coat to leave, but Mark stops her. He tells her he loved her report on TV, and she pretty much tells him off. She feels like an idiot already, so he doesn't need to make it worse for her, but he surprises her by confessing that he likes her, just the way she is. She encounters him again when she's out on a job. She fails to get the scoop she needed, but he comes in to save the day, helping her land an exclusive interview. She decides to cook for her friends in celebration for her birthday and for the successful interview. Mark visits to congratulate her, and he ends up helping her cook, though she's failing horrendously. But the vibes this time are very much on. Her friends seem to like Mark as well, and just when you think nothing can go wrong, Daniel barges in, begging Bridget to take him back. Bugger off, you wanker! Mark decides to settle his beef with Daniel once and for all in an intense fight that ends with Daniel totally knocked out.
It's what she deserves.
Bridget is disappointed with Mark for starting the fight, and he storms out angrily. Daniel shoots his shot again, but Bridget shuts it down immediately. Some days later, Bridget and her parents get invited to a party hosted by the Darcys. Bridget tells her mom she's not going, and in their back and forth, we find out that, plot twist, it was actually Daniel who slept with Mark's fiancée. Fork found in the kitchen. Bridget changes her mind and goes to the party. She apologizes to him, pulls him to the side, and finally confesses that she too likes him just the way he is, even with that ridiculously adorable tie. He gets called for a toast, so he doesn't get to reply, and we find out through his father's speech that he's moving to a law firm in New York along with Natasha, his current law partner, and possibly, as his dad hints at it, his future wife. Natasha has been stuck to Mark the entire movie, but I chose not to bring her up because I simply do not care about her. Bridget screams her rejection, drawing attention to herself, but she plays it off as something else and goes back to her apartment, heartbroken. Her lovely friends drop by to comfort her with a trip to Paris, friendship goals, but just as she's about to leave, Mark is there, declaring that he came back to England for her. He tries to kiss her, but her friends are major cockblockers, so maybe not friendship goals, so she brings him upstairs, trip to France be damned. She dashes to her bedroom to change her knickers, and while he's waiting, he finds her diary and reads the entries about him and how she very much hates him. He heads out, and when Bridget sees the open diary, she realizes her mistake, so she runs in her underwear to chase him in the snowy cold. Girl, no man is worth running after in the freezing weather. That could never be me. She finds him and apologizes profusely, but it turns out that it was all just a misunderstanding. He just went out to buy her a new diary so they can start afresh. And the two finally kiss in that snowy storm. How romantic. The end. This movie was a lot less cringe than I remember, actually. And it's so unapologetically British, I feel like I've been colonized. Again. As far as rom-coms go, this one was never a particular favorite of mine, and now that I've rewatched it, my opinion of it hasn't changed much. But it's more of a personal taste problem. See, as a loyal practitioner of social anxiety, comedies that rely heavily on someone humiliating themselves over and over is my absolute nightmare. So yeah, I don't think I'll be watching those sequels anytime soon. That's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.